Again, 11 gamer, Wednesday night, hump day, not messing around here in the association. Late swapped in at the last second, returning champion, Keith Eister, Eyes. When did this happen, by the way? Because Bobby retweeted that he was going to be on the show, or at least gave it the old retweet on Twitter 15 minutes ago. This just happened? You just get swapped in?
Yeah, it was an extreme late swap. I think about 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago, maybe. But I was here doing content anyway, so I'm fully up to speed on the slate and ready to jump in and fill in.
I'm glad that somebody's fully up to speed on this slate because I mean, I'm trying to be as up to speed as possible, but I mean, all the body parts, there's just so many, and lots of stuff's going to drop throughout the show. Lots of stuff's already dropped throughout the day. Rudy Gobert is questionable once again, which, by the way, is like the fourth game he's questionable. Why was he questionable 4 games ago? Like, if he's questionable tonight, he had to be like rolled out a week ago. Well, that's a whole other conversation. There's the point I'm trying to make. Like, how is he questionable now if he was questionable a week ago? Just like, and also Naz Reid's been crushing souls. Sabonis is a hand, so he's questionable. We're expecting LeBron back tonight. Westbrook, speaking of getting scratched the last second, he's questionable tonight with his foot. Nurkic is a calf, so he's questionable. Wagner, that's Franz Wagner. I should be specific. There's 2 Wagners. He's a game time as well. Josh Giddey is still questionable with his illness. Golden State, they're playing, but not really. They're playing basketball, I guess. The Bulls have a lot of their fringe guys that are out. So like the core is going to play a ton tonight, which they typically do. There's a lot. I mean, there's a whole list I can make. I don't want to do the whole body parts to last the entire show, but yeah, 11 gamer. And also what's interesting, 11 games, 9 of 11 start within an hour, right? 8 o'clock. So it's again kind of like a doubleheader as far as the slate. The first 9 games, the first half of the doubleheader, the back 2 games is Lakers Kings, 241 total. That's a big boy total for sure. And then Hornets versus the Clippers. They've never done anything funky, right? The Clippers, as far as scratching guys, like, oh yeah, they always do. Yeah, I think Paul George is questionable as well. If I missed that one, and somebody else is questionable. A team that sort of matters. Zubac is questionable, I believe. They have several pieces, and like Biggs have done pretty good against Charlotte of late. If just noting that, I'm not sure if Zubac can get a chance, but if he does, he can be kind of sort of somewhat interesting. What's up, Keith? What do you have as far as general overview on this slate before we fully dive in? Because what's weird or interesting, stuff's gonna open up, but right now, there's not a lot of, in my estimation, for an 11 gamer, clear and obvious, like awesome smash chalk.
Yeah, I sort of agree with that. There are a couple of situations certainly worth monitoring. You talked about that Lakers Sacramento total. Highly interested in that game. With Westbrook questionable, you pull up a court IQ on LeBron with AD and Westbrook off the floor, and it looks really, really nice. He's already underpriced on DK for his role without AD. Fanduel's a little bit different conversation. He's more expensive over there, but he's looking really good on DK already. If Westbrook gets ruled out, LeBron is just a total smash. So definitely keeping an eye on that one. And then the Sabonis questionable tag as well. De'Aaron Fox is very cheap and would step into an even bigger role against a depleted Lakers team. So highly interested in that game and those 2 questionable tags in particular.
So I like to run optimals just to kind of see where we're at. I know this stuff's going to change, but I think it's interesting that, you mentioned LeBron. LeBron looks like the best big spend on DK. I believe his other 5 figures. I'm going to say he's like 9.9. He's hitting at 38%. Grimy is out for New York, so we're expecting Miles McBride to jump in that starting lineup, and he's projected for 36% right now. But the top 3 guys right now hitting my optimals that I ran with some, I added some juice to it. I added some variance to it. Are all Bulls, and all 3 key Bulls are playing, right? Which is just kind of weird. The prices are pretty good. The matchup's fine. Caruso's got an elbow. He's questionable. Right now, he's hitting optimals if he plays. No Dragon. Goran Dragic is out. Derek Jones is out as well. And Javonte Green is doubtful. So it just feels like they're going to have a really, really thin rotation. A lot of guys are going to get pushed up. But Caruso, Vukovic, and Patrick Williams, our friend Patrick Williams from, was it last night? Patrick Williams?
Yeah, yesterday. Yep.
Yeah. The days, I get so confused. I know he was like a thing. He was popping not that long ago. I guess it was yesterday, I suppose. Did he put up his 22 points like he always did?
He fell even a little bit short of that. So if you faded Patrick Williams to jam in some Landry Shamet, you were cooking last night.
Just play Shamet instead of Lee was the move, right? Lee was
Yeah.
just insanely owned. He drew the starting spot. Lee was terrible. Shamet crushed off the bench. And Highsmith also crushed for Miami. Starting that starting lineup, he had a great game as well. Oladipo was chalky, but made a lot of sense, and I think he was pretty well as well also. But yeah, is that interesting to you? Is that peculiar to you that like we're getting 3 Bulls, and then you'll just play the straight optimal, obviously, but that's just I thought that was interesting, and then all 3 are in, and we're still getting the first 3 guys in. This is DK specific: Caruso, Vuk, and Williams hitting optimals at the highest percentage, not a massive number, but amongst everybody playing the biggest number.
Yeah, it is. It's not the most comfortable thing, and it makes this slate a little bit difficult. Like we talk about it a lot, how we don't like to play these Bulls guys when all 3 of them are in, but their pricing has been really soft here recently, and Vucevic has been playing really well. Love his price tag. Levine has struggled, so that's kept his price down. He looks really good on FanDuel, under 7K.
Yeah.
And DeRozan, we've paid upwards of 9K before too. So I think they're all just a little bit underpriced. You talked about the fringe guys who are all out. So presumably they're locked in for like 35, 36 minutes. And it wouldn't surprise me to see like 40 out of them. So that helps you feel a little bit more comfortable. But I'm not crazy about playing multiple of them in the same tournament lineup. Cash games, that's fine. Decent spot. No Capella on the other side for Atlanta. They do have DeJounte Murray back, which helps their defense. But overall, they don't rank as a great defensive team on the season. I believe they're 18th or 19th, somewhere in that range. So it is a decent matchup, and the pricing looks good on the Bulls. But I agree, for tournaments, it's not comfortable at all to jam in even 2 of these guys, I would say. Like 2 is the most I would probably do.
Yeah, I like that thought process as well. And jumping on FanDuel, I don't like the first guy hitting our ownership one, and I'm curious to get your thought over there. I think you tend to play more on DK, but we have a Kungwu popping on FanDuel, and like you get 1 center and 1 center only, and he was booted to the bench last game, chopped the 48 with Collins. He did close, but I think Collins probably plays more than 20 minutes. Kungwu has been disappointing, and again, you can only get 1 of these guys. You gotta hit your center, and I do not like a Kungwu chalk on FanDuel for what it's worth. Curious if you have a thought on that. And we're going to go game by game in a second. This is just some things I think that were worth noting as far as the entire slate. And then 4 of the top 6 guys in optimals on FanDuel as far as hitting ownership-wise, or hitting, landing in my lineups, 50%, 40% are Bulls, again, on FanDuel. DeRozan, Williams, Caruso, Levine. Caruso might not play. If he doesn't go, like, is Kobe White all of a sudden interesting? Is he the guy that's going to get elevated? Or is Dosunmu going to draw that start, and we're still just kind of hoping White is a 6-man off the bench?
I think Dosunmu is typically the guy they push into the starting lineup. So, yeah, Kobe would still be interesting, but coming off the bench, I believe. Dosunmu is interesting. His price is very low.
Michael's got a question in chat. What's up, chat? Kindly hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on those notifications. I believe TJ is going to be on later, so I'll be very disappointed if it's not a substantial number of likes, and he verbally lashes out at me. And it's weird because I'm like 20 years older than them, and like I feel, he really puts me in my place. So, yeah, hit that like button. Do subscribe. Well, not 20 years. I rounded up. But you know what I mean. Yeah, hit all the buttons. Hit all the things. We do appreciate that. Turn on the notifications so you know when we go live. He's asking about Zubac and Cash. I don't think that's what we're doing, right? Zubac is too volatile as is.
Yeah.
And he's also questionable, and it's a late game.
Questionable tag on the last game of the night is a very dangerous proposition for a cash game play. Leaves you don't leave yourself many outs there. So I would not do Zubac in cash. I didn't really answer your Okongwu question. I just realized. It's not like he's minimum price anymore. He's up to 5,200. Like, he needs to do more than just be out there for 25 minutes and get you 25 points. Like 5,200, you've got Vucevic at 7,900, I think is a great play. I'm interested in Sabonis, even though his price is elevated if he plays. Great matchup against a very fast-paced Lakers team. No AD on the other side. I don't think we're scared of Thomas Bryant defense whatsoever. So he's extremely interesting if he goes. I think you have Şengün as a pivot in a similar price range, just the mid-range type. Looney with a short-handed Golden State team. Draymond Green with a presumably bigger role in Golden State, although that didn't work out yesterday. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff.
Draymond, he got banged up yesterday. It's another back half of back-to-back. We'll see. Is there an actual designation on Draymond, or am I making that up in my head?
I don't think there's a designation on him, but things like that with Golden State, like nothing Golden State does would surprise me at this point. That would make Looney extremely interesting, I would think.
Yeah, I mean, they're already without Green. That's Jermichael Green, doesn't matter so much. Of course, Steph and Clay is a big deal, and Wiggins is a big deal. 3 of their 4 best players. DiVincenzo is still out as well. Pool party. We're going to be talking about some of the fringe guys there for Golden State soon enough as well. Even Wiseman is questionable with a thumb. He's been terrible. James Wiseman, it's just not happening, unfortunately. Man, if they drafted anybody else, right? If you look at that draft around. Yeah. Pretty wild. I think Ball, right? Wasn't Ball an option? I feel like he was an option. Not that that's something that guard is our need, but okay. Anything else of note? Anything else we should point out here before we kind of dive in and do the old game by game deal?
I don't think so. I mean, I mentioned the 2 pieces that we're really waiting on that are extremely interesting. That's like there's other news we're waiting on, but I'm not sure that it's like Slate impacting news like the 2 that I mentioned are. Zubac is interesting, but again, I'm not sure we can do that with that in the last game of the night. George being out would certainly make a difference. So maybe you save some spots in that last game, but like the Caruso stuff maybe makes one of those Bulls guards interesting. Kyle Anderson is questionable. Nurkic is questionable. I suppose that could make Eubanks interesting. There's other moving parts for sure. But the primary 2 I'm focused on are Sabonis and Westbrook.
Yeah. Gobert?
Yeah. Yep. That's an interesting one as well.
Yeah. Nas is 5'9" on DK, 6'6", I believe, on Fanduel. Still probably not high enough. Like if Gobert doesn't go, I know it's not like a great matchup theoretically against Dallas. He has put at least 40 up against his team last time out. And I think he'd probably put 40 up again, more or less. Somebody in chat says Moses Brown season. Yeah, that's interesting. If Zubac doesn't go, Brown's a really, really good fantasy point minute player. I don't know how much opportunity we get, but, put that in your back pocket, I suppose. And, if you want to really be ambitious, well, I want to see him starting. I wouldn't just play Moses Brown unless he was starting and unless Zubac was out. All right, very first game on the slate. Fun game, to watch, right? Not a great DFS game, I don't think. Some good pieces, theoretically. Milwaukee at Cleveland, 216.5 is the total. Not a very high number. Milwaukee's a 2-point dog here. The 2 best defensive teams in all of basketball taking on each other. You do have Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis, of course, is basically matchup proof. As far as the body parts, who's in and who's out in this one, it is kind of important, I think, that Lamar Stevens is I was going to say he's out. He's doubtful. He's the reason why Lamar Stevens plays basketball with the Cavs is he's good defensively. They would throw him on Giannis. The absence of Stevens, I think, increases Giannis's ceiling. He makes him a little bit more playable. Of course, Milwaukee without Chris Middleton. Well, again, not official. He's doubtful. I assume he's out. Otherwise, Cleveland is fully healthy. Otherwise, Milwaukee is fully healthy. Is Stevens being out getting you a little bit more interested in Giannis, or just Giannis you like no matter what, or whatever situation? He's really the most playable guy in this game, in my estimation.
Yeah, I agree that he's the most playable guy in the game. He's still really expensive and in a very difficult matchup. Obviously, he's not a guy you're generally concerned about the matchup with, but like he needs to get it done in the paint. And they have Allen and Mobley both in there to protect the rim. I don't love this matchup for Giannis. I think he's a bit too expensive. There isn't a ton of great value as of right now to where it makes it easy to get one of these 12K guys in. I think living in that 8-9K range is going to be the way I'm playing this at this point.
Did you hear my commercial?
I did. Yeah.
Dude, come on,
I was wondering what that was.
I don't want your commercial. Can I just pull your page up and you don't have to try to sell me something? I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. That pretty much wraps it up. Just a little bit too pricey for me in this matchup. Certainly wouldn't try to lock you off of it. He obviously has one of the best ceilings.
On DK, Mobley at 6'9" is a pretty fair price. He's getting almost 10% ownership. It's also a 7:00 game. The Giannis thing, I don't know if you said it or not. I was too focused on that stupid commercial. But on FanDuel, at least you get Giannis at 11.5, which seems a little bit more playable. Right, the cap's a little bit looser there sometimes. So I don't mind him. Although we're seeing 2.8% ownership, 18% ownership for Mobley for what it's worth. On Fanduel at 7-1. You can play him at power forward or center over there. Otherwise, Mitchell's just not really going to get played. Garland's not really going to get played. Can these guys get there? Of course they can get there. There's 11 games tonight. Is there any rational reason to argue that it's going to happen tonight outside of just variance? No, right? I'm not going to say you can't play Donovan Mitchell, but you make a line of studs you want to play tonight. Mitchell's probably not in the first 10. I assume he's not in the first 10. You tell me otherwise.
He's not in the first 10 for me. You've got Garland back. Allen missed some time. He's back. So tough price tag on Mitchell in a really tough matchup here. Holiday on the other side, missing Middleton more than likely, but still they played without him all season and still rank among the best or the best defensively. So tough matchup here for Cleveland. Slower paced game. I'm not very interested here in the Cleveland guys. The Garland price is interesting, but with Mitchell there, he doesn't have the same ceiling as what we're used to.
The other thing, by the way, for Giannis, tough matchup inside, like you said, for Cleveland, just to add some color to it. They allow the second fewest points in the paint in all basketball, which does, not surprising with Allen and Mobley there in the middle clogging things up. Giannis, matchup proof, but it's not the most appealing matchup. I think he played well against Cleveland earlier this year when Stevens wasn't in the game, when he was hurt that game, and Stevens kind of locked him up to some degree in the other game as much as you can. But, not a priority, but, you can always play Giannis. Is there anything else that's worth saying as far as this game, or shall we move on?
Let's go ahead and move on.
All right. Pistons are playing the back half of a back-to-back. They're in Philadelphia. Feels like a scheduled blowout, right? 12.5-point dogs here. Philadelphia fully healthy with the exception of Tyrese Maxey. He's been dinged for a while. Melton has stepped up pretty well for him. Frickin' Korkmaz, questionable, no big deal. Detroit, Killian Hayes, questionable with his knee. And everybody else, Livers and Cunningham, they're going to be out for a while. Dude, Jalen Duran just turned 19 in November. He's 18 years old when the season started, I think. Embiid is just going to – I like Duran. It's just he's just going to annihilate him, right? He's going to just school the rookie. I assume so, but he's expensive and, salary is a thing. But Embiid's going to smash here, right?
Yeah, it certainly feels like that. And Durant has been playing really well recently. The rebounds have been way up, but this is just not the matchup against Embiid. The foul trouble risk is real here. Durant has not been a guy who's found his way into foul trouble a ton so far in his career, but this is the matchup for that type of thing to happen. Embiid is just the master of drawing that foul inside.
Mm-hmm.
So tough spot for him. The rebounds look great recently, but again, with Embiid on the other side, I don't think it's a spot. We saw Jaden Ivey absolutely explode yesterday. Killian Hayes questionable. So if Killian Hayes is out, maybe you can take a look at Jaden Ivey, 4,800 on DK where I'm looking here right now. That might be interesting because I do have some interest in the Philly side. Seems like a great spot for Embiid, and Harden's been playing pretty well this year as well.
Yeah, I like Harden and Embiid as well. I think both of them are good big spends. It's a matter of how close this game stays, but I feel like they can kind of sort of basically do whatever they want as long as they're still out there. We talked about Cleveland and Milwaukee being the best defensive team in basketball. With Detroit, just incrementally is not the worst, but they're the second worst, just behind the Spurs. If you're going to build a lineup, do you start with Embiid or you start with Harden if you're playing somebody in Philadelphia? Or it's just, there's no preference.
I don't have a big distinction between them today. You save a little money by going Harden, but Embiid has a slightly higher ceiling, I think. So I probably lean Embiid slightly. You mentioned the rookie matchup on the other side. So it seems like an Embiid night for me.
How much is Ivy? Ivy, he certainly has talent. The opportunity will be there.
4,800 on DK, and he's 57 on FanDuel.
So much more playable in DK, obviously. Yeah. By the way, Russ was just ruled out. No Westbrook. So is that going to be Demolition Man Schroeder along with LeBron, or it's just LeBron and LeBron and LeBron?
Did Schroeder's price come up after his last performance? Let's see here.
It did. He's 4.7 on DK, 5.6 on FanDuel. He was 3.8 the other night. we have a what if for what it's worth. We are projecting with Russ out, LeBron for like 56 DK points. Jesus, guy's 38 years old. It's insane. Thomas Bryant close to 30, Schroeder 28-ish. So he's probably going to be a decent value on DK, FanDuel, whatever, somewhere in the middle. Yeah. All right. And LeBron's going to be so popular on DK, just insanely popular. He's going to hit every optimal.
I think he will be in every lineup I build tonight. This is a fantastic spot. And if Sabonis gets ruled out, it's an even greater spot because that lowers the blowout risk. Like you're a little worried that the Lakers aren't going to be able to keep pace here if Sabonis plays, but without Sabonis, like LeBron is literally going to do whatever he wants, right?
I thought you were thinking about like rim protector wise, and Sabonis is like a bad rim protector, but like who's the guys behind us? Like Rashawn Holmes, man. Remember that guy used to be like he had a lot of hops and a lot of bounce. He's just, I mean, yeah, it's just not happening for him. Metu is behind him. They don't really have much after Sabonis. They're playing Sabonis like 40 minutes a night now. Alex Len, they can dust him off, I suppose. Yeah. LeBron's gonna and I assume he's gonna play. I assume he's like healthy in air quotes, as healthy as he can be. I know he missed he missed a back-to-back, but he hasn't won a back-to-back in like over a month or so. Yeah, this feels like the LeBron show, and we are gonna see Schroeder will be interesting as well too. We'll get there, but yeah, this is kind of the news we're talking about, and LeBron's going to be just incredibly owned. You're just saying you're owned well over. You don't care.
Yeah, on DK specifically. On FanDuel, it's a decision because at least he's priced up where he should be at 11-1. On DK, he's at least $1,000 too cheap, in my opinion, and it's a fantastic matchup. Great spot. Both teams play at a top 5 pace in the league, so great game environment, great matchup, and just too cheap.
All right, Indiana. Are we done with Philadelphia and Detroit? I think we are, right?
Yep.
Indiana, Boston, 233. Pretty big total. 10-point dog here. The Pacers, they are fully healthy Indiana team. Boston is getting Jason Tatum back. I think he took the day off to go to his son's birthday. Pretty sure that's the story I saw. Marcus Smart is not feeling well. He's questionable. He's ill, as is Grant Williams. But Grant Williams will play. Smart is questionable. I feel like I know a lot of this game, and I feel like that could be a problem. But where are you at on Pacers, Boston?
The Pacers side, I don't have a ton of interest in. I don't know. Halliburton has certainly done it this year, but like there are other guys I want to spend up for. He's right in that LeBron price range. There's a couple of guys in the 8K range I think are in great spots. Jaylen Brown on the other side, I don't mind him. The problem with the Boston side is I don't see anything I love on the Indiana side to run it back with.
Yeah.
And it's a 10-point spread. So I do feel like you want a run back if you're playing some Brown and Tatum, but I don't know that I want to put all of my funds in this game on an 11-game slate when there are a lot of other great spots as well. So probably don't get too much of it. I guess it's Halliburton is the only guy you really feel great about for Indiana. Maybe Miles Turner, but again, center only. Don't love it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. You basically said where I'm at too. It's like I'm not going to discourage anybody from playing Tatum or Brown or whatever, but like, do I want to force a run back? I don't think so. I guess I'm willing to play, one of those, Brown just by himself in this game. I guess I'm okay with that, especially if Smart gets out. We have Smart being a positive DK value if we have Brown being a positive DK value if Smart is ruled out. Again, I'm pulling up our premium what if projections. Pretty healthy projection on Brown if Smart does not play. 48 DK points, 45 FanDuel. So that's pretty solid. Looks like Brogdon would get a little bit of a bump as well up to 28. Tatum like 51, but like he kind of has to get 51, and that I don't want to say that's going to hurt you, but I don't know how much that helps you, right? If Tatum gives you 51 points, like okay, that's fine, right? Like okay, sure, that's what he was supposed to get. Horford.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the team total here, and it's like we should have more interest, but like they're all just priced up. Like because Tatum missed last game, Brown smashed. He got a decent bump up to 94. So I think it's just the pricing here on Boston that's a little bit tough.
Yeah, Michael in chats, if Smart is out for Boston, are we more interested in Indiana guys? The defense taking a hit on it. I don't I think Indiana is just like everybody's healthy. Nobody's got a discount. Boston's still a pretty solid defensive team. We know Time Lord's back as well. He's expensive, and I don't love this matchup. He's been scuffling of late. If you care about such things as far as cold streaks, and like you said, 11 games. Why do I have to force this? Is sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Smart being out, I don't know that it makes me more interested in Indiana, but Derek White is really cheap, 3,900. I don't know if him or Brogdon would jump into the starting lineup.
I feel like they almost always bring Brogdon off the bench. Am I wrong for saying that?
No, I think you're correct. That's why Derek White was my first instinct. Like they're never going to push Brogdon much over 30, where they're fine running Derek White out there for 35, I would say. So White is generally the guy that starts, I think. But that is a little bit of an interesting situation. Could be a nice pivot off of like the cheap Bulls guys.
Waiting for more news. I wanted to take a peek as far as the Bulls. You mentioned them because that is our next game. The Bulls getting a ton of ownership. 236 is the total. And they're a dog back half of a back-to-back. Generally don't like that sort of combination, and then a ton of ownership as well. But that's where we're at. 5-point dog here versus Atlanta. We talked about it before. Some of the Chicago guys, some of the fringe Chicago guys are not playing basketball tonight. They are. Let me pull up my list. Let's knock the Hawks out. Just Clint Capella is the only one. They were injured for a while. They got really, really healthy. It's just Capella out. We did see something interesting last time with Collins starting at the 5. We like Collins at the 5, but we don't like Collins playing 20 minutes. Do you think his minutes get boosted? Do you think it becomes Collins and Okongwu play more than 48 total? That's what they played last game. I think we have projected 25 and 25. I've not seen anything as far as Collins a minutes restriction, but I don't know if it's a ramp-up situation. But, if we can get 30 center minutes at Collins, that'd be awesome. But I don't know if we can assume that. Or even 20 at the center and, 10 at the 4. That could be interesting too at 5-7. Yeah, let's knock out the Hawks first. They're, again, fully healthy. What's your expectation as far as that center situation? Do we assume Collins starts again at the 5 and comes off the bench?
Yeah, I think they do that again. And I agree. I think it is a little bit of a ramp-up situation here. 25 is a number that makes sense to me. A decent boost over what he got last game, but still definitely not full minutes. If we thought he could play 30 minutes in this spot, I would absolutely love Collins here. I still think you can take some shots on him just because there is that chance that he plays more than the 25 we have projected here. Vucevic is not a guy I'm scared of on the other side, so I think Collins is in play. And as a pivot off of Okongwu, even if Okongwu gets 3 quick fouls or something, maybe they are comfortable running Collins out there. So the pivot to Collins from Okongwu is something I like. Trey is a guy I'll play just because we're going to be playing some of these Bulls guys with the pricing that they have. Trae Young makes for an outstanding run back. Great dealing from him. Murray is the prices come down a little bit, so he's more in play than he has been for most of the season, but it's still not comfortable with Trey out there. Trey has been the usage guy. He gets a ton of assists. Murray still gets his as well, but he just doesn't have the ceiling that he used to playing alongside Trae Young. So he's fine, but I definitely prefer Trey.
All right, the Chicago side. No Derek Jones, no Javonte Green. Well, he's officially doubtful. Goran Dragic, old. He's got an ankle. He's out. Caruso's got an elbow. Questionable. Again, it's kind of weird that there's no real major significant injury, but all these Chicago guys are popping. And you talked about how mostly it's because their prices are just kind of pushed down. But I'm looking at Fanduel. DeRozan's 8.4, which is kind of where he's at. Sometimes he's 9K with 8.4. 45% projected ownership. That's outrageous. I mean, that's a ridiculous number. Patrick Williams, 41% projected. And then again, this stuff changes as the news flow changes, but even at 5:30 on the East Coast, to me, that's absurd. I would get under that if I was running a bunch of lineups on FanDuel. There's no way I would get 45% to Rosen. 41% for Levine. Outrageous. 35% Caruso, who, like, when does Caruso ever break the slate? Unless he gets like 9 steals and a couple threes. Are you feeling similar here? And I was focusing on FanDuel as far as the ownership stuff. I don't think it's that egregious on DK, but just,
it's a little bit more palatable on DK. We're looking at roughly like 25 range for most of those guys. Vucevic is the one that's getting steamed a little bit. He's up to 32%. Last I refreshed here. It's not a comfortable thing. I don't think it's great chalk. The problem is one of these guys is getting here, at least. So I think I'm playing some of it. I think the way I'm handling this is I'm going to play them roughly at or just slightly above the field, not a situation where I'm trying to double anyone's ownership or anything like that. But then I'm limiting it to 2 guys, and that includes, I'm not just talking 2 stars. I'm talking the value plays as well. If Patrick Williams or Alex Caruso, if he plays, if Caruso is out, I'm talking about guys like Kobe White and Dosunmu as well. Just 2 total Bulls in general, which probably leaves me at or under the field on a couple of them. DeRozan being the most expensive is probably the one that gets bumped of the pool a little bit. Vucevic is my favorite out of all of them. He's just been playing really well recently. This is a good matchup against Okongwu and Collins, no Capella on the other side. So I think Vucevic can have a really great game here. He's been playing really well. 7,100 on DK is just too cheap.
Center is the problem, right? The center, yeah.
Yeah.
The center, yeah, because it's one hit.
Yeah, definitely. But he's still like amongst the top values. Now, if Gobert gets ruled out and I need to be jamming in a ton of Naz Reid, maybe that changes. But as of right now, Vucevic is my favorite play on the Bulls. The Patrick Williams thing, we said it wasn't great value yesterday. It didn't work out. He's popping again. Just another guy that I would be underweight on tournaments. I would much rather take shots on like Kobe White, save a little bit of money. Hopefully he gets a little bit of run. Like Caruso is not comfortable chalk either. Like I just don't think any of these guys are great chalk, but they're like, it is a great matchup and they're all a little underpriced. So it's more than likely that at least 1 or 2 of them is going to pay off their salary tag today.
I got him Vuk, Levine, and then DeRozan. I think if I would rank those 3, is that I heard you ranking Vuk first?
Yeah, that is how I would have him as well.
Yeah, and would you be into Dosunmu if he draws the start at 3.3K? Like how into Dosunmu would you be if we see Caruso rolled out? This is your team, so I figure you got a pretty good beat on the Bulls. Yeah,
again, it's not comfortable. He's not a huge fantasy producer, and like I think 32 minutes is his max. They're not going to run him out there for 35 like they will Levine and DeRozan. He's in play. If like you're probably comparing him with like whatever, like the Knicks starting lineup is going to be important. If McBride is in there, you're comparing Dosunmu to McBride basically,
and Moody.
And Moody as well. Yep. So you are going to have some 3K options at the guard position. I don't know. I'll play ownership on that a little bit. And if we don't get Caruso news until the slate locks or something like that, then Dosunmu is far lower owned than Moody and McBride, then I would definitely have some Dosunmu.
Dosunmu 0.73 fantasy points per minute. Patrick Williams 0.7. Caruso 0.74 on DK. A little better on FanDuel. Good stocks player. White 0.77 on DK. I figure it'd be a little bit higher than it is on FanDuel. It is, but not a lot of separation with his 3-point ability. None of them spectacular as far as fantasy points per minute. Just kind of the point.
Right.
None of them are just like jumping off the page. They just need some minutes. But they might play 30 minutes or so depending on. Anything else of note as far as this game, or shall we move on?
That's all I got.
Got a little bit of news. James Wiseman is available tonight. Josh Giddey is over his illness. He's available, and Darius Baisley is available. So more pieces to play with for OKC. All right, let's move on. The very next game on the slate is Golden State. Golden State versus Brooklyn. Speaking of teams that are wounded or without players tonight, The Warriors are 12-point dogs tonight. This is the back half of back-to-back, and it's travel as well. Again, feels kind of like a scheduled blowout. Klay Thompson's not able to play on back-to-back, so he's not playing tonight. DiVincenzo is out. Wiggins is out. JaMychal Green's out. Wiseman available. Looney played. I assume Looney's played every single game, like the last 150 games or so. He's the one constant with the Warriors. But, like, his rates never change, right? He's just sort of like, out there getting his 8 rebounds and
7 points and
I rounded up. I gave him too many points, I guess. Revenge game for Durant. They are fully healthy. Brooklyn's got everybody. Everybody's good to go for Brooklyn. I feel like Durant could thrash here, but I also feel like I don't know how much thrashing he has to do because this Warriors team does feel like they are wounded coming into Brooklyn tonight. It's the association. Weird things happen all the time. Was it Phoenix we saw? Was that last night that Phoenix lost to a terrible team? Am I thinking of something else? Charlotte beat somebody the other night. The Kings. Weird things happen. It's hard to predict sometimes. But it feels like a blowout, and Vegas is suggesting it. 12 points here, 12.5, depending on where you're shopping. But there is some potential value plays on Golden State. We talked about it yesterday. If Klay was out, then Kuminga could be more interesting, right? So I think Kuminga is the guy that he may come off the bench, but I think there's a decent chance he closes or mops up, if nothing else. I think he's one of our value plays tonight, potentially. You mentioned Ty Jerome, essentially the floor, 3.5K. Moody, we're projecting both those guys to start. Jerome, Poole, Moody, Green, and Looney. Who are you most interested on the Golden State side?
Well, if you want to play Brooklyn, I think no doubt you're looking at Jordan Poole. If this game has any chance of being close, Jordan Poole is going to have a massive game. Elevated price tag, but he's in an even better spot than he was yesterday. He didn't exactly get it done for us yesterday. It's a guy who's relying on jump shooting on a back-to-back, which is not something that we love. But if this game's staying close, it's going to be Jordan Poole playing a humongous part in it. So I have some interest there. And then I have the more interesting way, in my opinion, to play this game is to look at the value. Like Moody and Ty Jerome are guys who I don't think necessarily get kicked off the court in a blowout. They're probably going to get their 25 to 30 minutes, even if this game gets out of hand. Guys like Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, they're going to go away if this game is like a 20-point spread going into the fourth quarter. Like they're just not going to get any run. I'm
seeing 10 bodies, right?
Yep.
Who are the 5 that mop up? It's not Looney, it's not Green, it's not Poole.
Right.
So it's like 5 of Jerome, Moody, Kuminga, Lamb, Wiseman, Baldwin, and Rollins. Who's Ryan Rollins?
Yeah, I don't know much about Rollins either. Baldwin, we've seen get a little bit of mop up run in some of these recent blowouts. He played 7 minutes last night. Yeah,
I guess they would want to see Wiseman and just see how terrible he is and just regret their decision every time they watch him play. But I mean, you're supposed to think he's got a lot of athletic ability, raw talent, but it's just not happening. It's not clicking. But I'm just trying to think. Yeah, the ones that are important. Like, who cares about Rollins? They're not playing him. But Jerome is important. Moody's important. Kuminga's important. Do you think those guys all close? Likely to close? No matter what.
I don't know if they close per se. Like they could lose the last 6 minutes or something like that. And Kuminga, I would put in that group as well as a guy who he'll play if the game's out of hand, but once it's like, okay, we're waving the white flag, then it's going to be the Rollins and Baldwin guys. So I don't know that any of them are like, if we put the two basically G League guys in there, I don't know who the two that get kicked out necessarily are. I would say I'd lean to Moody and Kuminga being the two guys that get kicked out. Maybe Wiseman stays out there. I'm not sure. Depending on how many minutes he's played up to that point.
Moody and Jerome also not great fantasy point minute players. Moody 0.63 on the season per minute. Jerome 0.71. Lamb 0.75. Kuminga pretty solid at 0.83.
Kyrie Irving has been downgraded to questionable before we get there.
We're playing Durant. We're just going to play Durant. They're going to let him revenge all over the place. Oh, I don't know how angry he is at Golden State, but that's what's happening, right?
Yeah.
Is it a sickness? So he said illness?
They gave him a calf.
Oh, yeah. He's not playing. Come on. Come on. They just made that up. Well, what do you want? What body part do you want? I'll take a calf. I mean, it drops right now, an hour and a half, 2 hours before the game starts.
Yeah, this is we know we're gonna crush these guys tonight. Go ahead and take the night off, Kyrie.
Yeah, we don't need you. Just and let's let Durant do his thing. Let's let him stick at the Kerr. I just assume he's out, but like you never know. I mean, I don't like to, it's probably not smart to make assumptions, but my brain just says, okay, Kyrie's not playing tonight. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Durant was like sort of fine as is. It was sort of the Boston situation where, how much is Indiana going to punch back? How much is Golden State going to punch back? But if it's the Durant show for 3 quarters, if there's no Kyrie, like he should be an awesome play, right? Am I wrong in saying that? Is there anybody who would step up in the absence of Kyrie? That it's such a mixed bag. You have Joe Harris.
Yeah, they could do 2 things.
Bobby.
Do they just start Simmons at the point, or does somebody like Edmund Sumner go ahead and step into the starting lineup? I think those are the 2 options.
Is there anything appealing to you, preference for DFS wise?
Not particular. I mean, Sumner, I don't know that, like, he's 30. He's in another one of these like 3K range guards that we're going to have to sort through tonight. I would need him in the starting lineup for sure. I would assume he'd get his 24 to 28 minutes probably. Yeah, he's just as interesting as a guy like Alex Caruso, I would say.
They basically kicked Seth Curry out of the rotation, 9 minutes and 7 minutes the last 2 games. Again, they're fully healthy. I was just thinking, like, maybe Steph's in the building, maybe Seth's had a little fun in front of his brother. But, I'm deep braining that one, right? I'm overthinking that one, I think. But,
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, unless Curry draws the start, but yeah.
I think it would be Sumner. I guess if they started Simmons at the point, Curry could be the guy that steps in.
Interesting. Has Simmons started at the point this year? I guess he has. Has he? I feel like he hasn't. I feel like that hasn't really happened. I don't recall. And when Kyrie is out, was Simmons also out at that time?
Yeah, they were both out. When Kyrie missed a bunch of time, they were both out. So I don't think we've seen this exact situation. Sumner was getting a ton of run when Kyrie was out, but I believe Simmons was also out.
Yeah. And Sumner's 3-3 for what it's worth. Okay. How much do you like Durant on the fly here? Like, he just, in my head, he sounds awesome.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I wasn't terribly interested before because it, like you said, it felt like a scheduled blowout. Now I have more interest in Poole on the other side also because they have a better chance to keep this game close. So the Poole Durant stack is pretty intriguing.
Just want to see if anything pops up from a court IQ perspective. I'm kicking the Kyrie off the court, and we're going to get Kyrie rolled in like in 2 seconds, probably, right? So Durant on the season without Kyrie, 33.7% usage. It's only an increase of 1.7, which is a little bit surprising.
I feel like his assist rate should get a decent bump there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, a bump in assist rate, a bump in rebounds, 1.51 DK points per minute, 1.48 on Fanduel. Sumner has a 21.9% usage. Cam Thomas, that guy can score, man, if you give him a chance. I don't know how much run they'll give him. 23% for Cam Thomas. Claxton, a little bit of a bump as well. Joe Harris, a little bit of a bump. Yeah, it's just they have a lot of guys. Like, they still might run like 11 guys, They can.
Yep.
So I don't know if there's one person that necessarily is a clear and obvious benefactor as opposed to a bunch of them getting like these incremental bumps that probably don't really matter. Maybe one guy rises, but it's hard to guess. It's game flow. That's not something you necessarily could predict. Anything else that's of note? Your favorite player on Golden State is?
Now it's Poole. I would have said go value before, but I think it's Poole now. I feel like Golden State has a chance to keep this closer for a little longer. My favorite value play, I'm going to go back to Moody. It didn't quite work yesterday after he got thrown into the starting lineup, but now there's even more usage to go around with Klay Thompson out. So Moody should be getting his shots up today. Hopefully he makes
Is there
it.
enough value to play Poole, Durant, LeBron? We got 4-2 and change.
There is enough value. You're not going to be able to have like a piece of any significant piece of other game. You're going to be value throughout the rest of the lineup there, I think. So you would need this game to be the absolute nut game of the slate.
But you can. I think
yes,
you can.
but I would be mighty nervous about not having pieces of Lakers Kings.
Oh, no, I said Poole, Durant, and LeBron. You get those three.
Oh, okay. LeBron.
So you don't have a lot of Kings, really. Yeah. But,
yes.
Yeah, LeBron. And you can get like Schroeder or Bryant, I think, if you want that.
Yes. Yep. You could certainly do that.
I'm just sort of thinking about lineup construction on the fly. All right, we're moving on here as far as Golden State and Brooklyn. That feels like this game just got more interesting under the assumption that Kyrie, who is currently questionable, does not play. Toronto versus New York. 218.5 is the total in this game. Toronto, we have Gary Trent, who's questionable with his quad. Quentin Grimes is doubtful with his ankle. We're projecting Miles McBride to jump in that starting lineup and play a pile of minutes. There's other options. They could play Cam Reddish. Derrick Rose is still on that bench. They have Quickly, so I don't know if there's some fragility to it, but just sort of worth noting. And that's where we have a pretty good projection of McBride right now. The Raptors, good Lord, they played 48-minute Pascal the other night. I know it went overtime, but still, like, seriously, Nick Nurse is out of his mind. Pascal, I feel like he's like one of the most rostered studs in DFS always, and he's like the most bankable 40 minutes every single night. You got to pay for him, but why not play some Pascal Siakam? There's some good pieces in this game. What's standing out for you as far as the New York Toronto? I guess touch on that McBride situation first. Is that fool's gold? Can that be useful?
It can be useful, but it is definitely fragile. I don't think we know for sure who's going to start here. Cam Reddish hasn't gotten a ton of run in a very long time, but he's a guy who was in that starting lineup before Grimes kind of stepped forward. So I could see it being Reddish over McBride. I said it could be Quickly, but I think they would prefer him coming off the bench and running the second unit. I poo-pooed him yesterday, and he puts on my face 22 minutes and 36 fantasy points. So good for him.
And they kept him out there an extra long. Like, how do they always do that? That's Thibodeau, right?
But he still only got 22 minutes. That was my whole point. Is he just doesn't play the minutes, but he just absolutely smashed while he was out there.
He's one of those guys, like, whenever I choose the roster, he goes like 3 for 17 from the field.
Same.
Yeah, I never get him right. But like, I see him hitting box scores. So it's like, why does he never do this for me? And I have a bias against players that don't start. I just think that kind of hurts their ceiling. But he also probably closes. Like, there's a decent. We've seen him close even when Grimes is healthy. We've seen him close over Grimes many times.
I definitely will not downplay him today. I think Quickly is a fantastic play.
Yeah,
and I actually prefer that he doesn't start so that it keeps his ownership low.
I think McBride starts. Do you agree with that?
I think it's McBride or Reddish. Yes.
McBride, not a great fantasy point minute player, and of course he's not going to be like the focal point of the offense with Brunson and Randall and Barrett out there too. But this is like, these are the two coaches that they want to play 5-on-5. They don't even want benches in this game, right? These two coaches that they're happy to play all their dudes and just run them to the ground. Your favorite Knicks, go away from McBride. How do you feel about Randall? I think you got a price bump, which is going to, of course, keep that ownership down. Brunson at 7-2 seems pretty fair. It's a fair price, I think. New York, what do you have?
Yeah, as far as spend ups on New York, I don't love the spot for them. Toronto plays slow, pretty decent on defense. I'm definitely interested in the value. I think Grimes being out is a big enough deal to put. I'll probably have exposure to all three of McBride, Quickly, and Reddish. Maybe not Reddish if he doesn't start, but definitely McBride even if he doesn't start. I think I would go Brunson as my favorite just because you get such a discount from Randall. Wouldn't try to talk anybody off of Randall, but I think I have Brunson slightly more.
What about the Toronto side? We're projecting 38 minutes for Pascal, and that might be too low. I just you really can't project like 40 minutes on a guy. I don't think you can. I mean, we may have projected 40 at some point. Like I know you do projections sometimes. Have you ever gone that high, 40 minutes on a player?
It hasn't happened this year, but I remember seeing him projected at 40 last year. It was one of those games when they only had eight bodies though.
Yeah. 38 minutes for Pascal, 38 for FVV, 37 for Barnes. Birch is questionable. That's not a big deal. Just sort of noting that one. And Trent, we're projecting Trent. Is Trent out? I thought he was questionable. We're taking a stand here in projections.
I believe he's listed as doubtful, which means we would not include him in projections.
Okay. All right. So, and then we have like the fifth guy basically being a rotating cast of like Wancho and Boucher and Young and Flynn, and maybe one rises, but who the hell knows? Your favorite Raptors are who?
Pascal is my favorite. He has that power forward eligibility now, which is really nice. He's had center only at times this season. So maybe that's what's kind of held his ownership down a little bit throughout the year. But being able to play him at power forward is certainly a nice thing to be able to do. Van Vliet, I think, is absolutely in play. He's fine. We've seen a little ceiling from him here recently as well. I prefer Siakam. I think he acts as a ceiling more often. That's about as deep as I'm going. I'm just looking at the 2 stars here. Scotty Barnes' price isn't anything. I'll definitely have some Siakam and Van Vliet, but I prefer Siakam.
Yeah, it's nice to get Pascal some power forward eligibility on DK as well. So, there was a period where he's just center and center only, made it a little bit trickier. By the way, nobody is getting more than 3% ownership on Toronto. Just thought it'd be worth noting. Breaks in chat saying Pascal played 48 minutes. He got to get some rest tonight. Nope, no, he doesn't. Like, I understand that conventional wisdom, but no. I mean, if he's getting rested, he'll play 37 minutes. Like, I mean, that's his rest.
Correct.
Yeah, it's that Nick Nurse doesn't care. And that also, this is an island game, I think. Toronto didn't play yesterday. I don't think they play tomorrow. There's only 2 games tomorrow. I did not check who plays tomorrow, but, island game. He rested yesterday. He's good to go tonight. He'll play an absurd amount of minutes, as always. And no ownership because these guys are kind of sort of priced up. For New York, McBride is getting 20%. That's under the assumption he draws to start and plays 30 minutes and puts up 20 fantasy points on DK. Otherwise, everybody else is less than 10% as far as ownership. Anything else that's worth noting as far as this game, or shall we move on?
Let's keep it moving.
Okay, Portland is playing OKC. Portland versus OKC. This is a rematch of the walk-off SGA bucket. Could have used some overtime. I was happy for SGA, but I think my team's going to use some overtime in that game. I'm not bitter about it at all. But, yeah, 236 is the total. OKC is a 3-point dog here. We did get news that Giddey is in and Baisley is in. They're still without Trey Mann and Jalen Williams, but, they are getting healthier. As far as Portland, Nurkic as a calf, he's questionable. If he doesn't go, we probably see Drew Eubanks draw the start. I don't think they only play him so many minutes, right? He played 32. Okay, he played 32 minutes in that game. And he's 4-2. Okay, he was 3-2, I believe, that game. Or somewhere in the low to mid threes. He's up to 4-2. Center only. Center power forward on Fanduel, 4-6. How interested are we in Drew Eubanks if Nurkic cannot play?
Oh, I think extremely interested. Like you said, he got to 30 minutes in that last one. Oklahoma City struggles against bigs in general, and one of their better bigs, JRE, is still out as well. So Baisley at the 5, definitely not somebody I'm afraid of. If they run some Poku at the 5, you're certainly not scared of that. So
no,
just the interior defense of Oklahoma City. This is a great matchup here. So I like Nurkic if he plays. I love Eubanks if Nurkic sits. We got Lamar Stevens officially ruled out.
Makuro's starting. Get excited.
Yeah, right.
Not
30 minutes of nothing. Yeah.
Just guard Giannis. Good luck.
Yes. So yeah, I mean the Portland situation, I'm interested in the big man, and then you have to have some interest in Lillard. Dude's just been scoring a ton. Good matchup against Oklahoma City. It's tough to stack him with SGA on this slate, especially on where we're trying to jam in a bunch of LeBron and several other guys we're talking about. Love Pascal as well, who we just talked about. But I think you want some exposure here. Lillard can break the slate for sure. So I'll have a couple shares. That's probably about it. I'm not messing around with Jeremy Grant or Josh Hart or even Simons.
I liked SGA a good bit earlier today. In my head now, I have LeBron. I'm just kind of a different position, but just thinking like spends wise, like big spends. I think I got LeBron ahead of SGA. I think I have Durant ahead of him, assuming Kyrie's out. Is that fair and reasonable? And where do you have SGA? I like him. I like him a good bit, but I think he's behind those guys now.
Yes, I was completely with you early in the day, and even in the expert survey today, I wrote SGA up as my favorite spend up for tournaments. That has changed now as Josh Giddey went from out to in, and the other two guys that you just mentioned had significant players get ruled out on their teams. So a little different situation. Obviously, on the show, I haven't been able to update that on the survey yet. But yeah, I would definitely have SGA behind Durant and LeBron at this point. Still like him, though. He can find a ceiling even with Giddey in there. Just his rates really look great without Giddey. Like he gets a lot more assists without Giddey. He gets a little bit more usage. So it was looking like a great spot without Giddey against this bad Portland defense. Not quite as strong as it was with Giddey back in there, but I'll still have some SGA for sure.
Sam, what's up again to the chat? Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Y'all get TJ and Andy coming in for Crunch Time. Crunch Time free this year thanks to Fanduel. Fanduel sponsor Crunch Time. Chief Mineralogist Kevin Roth will be hosting that around 6:25 or so. If you guys are playing cash games, Andy's going to kind of sort of somewhat just build a cash game lineup for you. Just pay attention. Not literally, but, just pay attention. You'll basically know what he's doing. Put you in a really, really good spot position-wise as far as cash games. Let's see. Asking about if Trent is out, Flynn, is he a flyer? We mentioned Flynn in passing. A flyer is like a nice way of saying, I think when all is said and done, like Flynn's probably not a great play on this slate, right? When all the other value stuff is out. I'm guessing. Yeah,
I would rather play whoever's starting for the Knicks. I would rather play Caruso, I think. There's one.
The Warriors guys?
Yes, I would much rather play Moody. Even Ty Jerome ahead of him, I think. So yeah, I don't think I'd mess with Flynn today.
Steven in chat saying, Keith, update your expert survey, please. He's doing a show. He was a late swap in. I much appreciate you multitasking and doing the best you can. What is you're talking about the SGA thing, or come on? What do you want from the guy? You're watching the show right now. He's giving you the up. This is the verbal update, right?
That's right. There it is.
And then Conscious Machine is mentioning Bob Eubanks, who you are outing yourself as an old person because Bob Eubanks hosted the Newlywed Game in the 1980s.
I don't know why you know that.
We're both sneaky old. I'm sneaky older than you. I think I watched the Newlywed Game as a child, which maybe a lot of innuendo if you ever watch the Newlywed Game. It's like Family Feud these days. I don't know if you watch Family Feud, but everything is just like a different way to get your grandma to say something to do with sexual. But all right. We're moving on. I think so. Anything else as far as Portland and OKC?
That's it.
All right. The Game Show Network was so fire. You a game show guy? What's your favorite game show of all time? You got Press Your Luck? Is that what it is?
I don't even know if I know what Press Your Luck is.
You don't know what the whammies are? Oh, producer Steve. He doesn't know what it is either. I was going to say, have him throw up a GIF of a whammy on the screen. Like whenever you get something wrong, he would come up and he would taunt you. It's like a giant, massive board. And
okay, the whammy thing jogged my memory a little bit. I've seen it, but I was definitely not an avid fan.
There it is. Look at the screen. Does that screen look familiar to you? Are you watching?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
There is a documentary, I believe it's on Netflix, where this guy he memorized the board. And this is in the 80s. They recorded. He memorized the pattern, And he
Oh, wow.
won like $100,000 on a game show in the 80s, which wasn't unheard of because like the prizes are like, you win $10,000 or $5,000 and you're thrilled. And he broke the system. He broke the game. And they're calling him like a cheater. He didn't cheat. He just gamed the system. The dude just memorized the board.
Yeah.
Can't remember the name of the documentary, but it was pretty interesting. I believe he was an ice cream salesman. I don't know how I know that. These are the fun facts that you learn while watching our show. We shall move on. All right. There you go. I was hoping for a whammy. Can we get a whammy? I see this gift works too, but show the people what a whammy is. Oh, Supermarket Sweep. They brought that one back too. That was kind of a fun one as well. But now I'm just getting all nostalgic talking about game shows. We shall move on. It's 11 game slate. Why are we
no time for this team?
Who has time for such nonsense? Okay. Dallas is playing. Actually, we're on pretty good pace, to be fair. 4 games left. Oh, the chat's just going nuts. Hollywood Squares, win, lose, or draw. Price is Right. Yes, there's also a Price is Right documentary where the dude memorized the price of every appliance. It's wild. Yeah. And he's like calling him out from it's worth checking out. It's if you like such things. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And he finally got on stage and he kept binking it. Like he's like, yeah, that's 2,000. What is that? Is that a Kenwood 367? That's $2,376. Like,
that's quite a commitment for the chance of getting on the stage and getting on the show.
He went like 20 times until he finally got on. Like you have to like show a little bit of personality to the guys who are walking in, and he finally figured out how to beat the system. But yeah, it was pretty. When they say like they call out the names, it's not random. Just so you know.
Interesting.
Taking you behind the scenes of Price is Right for no particular reason.
I'm learning so much today.
All right. Dallas is playing Minnesota, 2:30. That is a total. That's a big boy total. This is also another rematch. I think we have several rematches on this slate. As far as the body parts in this game, Dallas, Tim Hardaway expected to go. He's over his illness. DFS, kind of a sneaky big one. I don't want to say a big one, but worth noting because he's one of the best defenders in the league. That certainly benefits the Minnesota guards. Dwight Powell is available, so we're currently projecting him to draw the start. Wood has just been playing out of his mind and playing a ton of minutes for Dallas. We're projecting both to start for Dallas for what it's worth. And then Minnesota, we've kind of talked about it a couple of times throughout the show. Obviously, Cat is out. McLaughlin's out. Big one is Rudy Gobert, who's got that ankle. Therefore, he's still questionable. Kyle Anderson, also questionable with his back. If Gobert is out, is it just as simple as saying, I'm playing Naz Reid and that's that? Like just whatever the ownership is, you want to be over the field? Your thoughts?
On the Gobert thing, if Gobert is out, Naz Reid is a lock button type of play. I know the price is coming up, but just go ahead and look at the last couple of games Gobert has missed. For an idea of what Naz Reid can do, you certainly want. I would be at least over the field, probably just lock him in. Not a ton of interest in other Minnesota pieces. Like if Gobert's out, maybe I get to some Anthony Edwards. Don't love the price tag on D'Angelo Russell in this matchup, and that's primarily what's keeping me away. Dallas plays slow, good defensive team. So it's probably just Naz Reid if Gobert is out. I don't have much interest at all if Gobert is in. Yeah,
Dallas, the slowest team in basketball. Again, it is worth noting that DFS isn't playing, so it makes the match a little bit better, but they're still playing slow. But just from he hurts their defense overall not being in the game. Just taking a peek here as far as ownership. And ownership obviously would change dramatically on Reid if we get the news on Gobert. We did get some news. Alex Caruso is available to play with his elbow, and Birch is out for Toronto. Not a big deal. Gary Trent also out as we predicted. He was already out of our projections. As far as ownership in this game, Minnesota versus Dallas, we have nobody outside of THJ, which is kind of fragile. We're getting 16% ownership on DK. Otherwise, not much going on. And again, if Gobert is out, Reid's going to catapult. How much do we like Luka on the other side? Luka can always break a slate. And then Christian Wood, they keep making his salary higher, and he keeps basically justifying it, right? He's been smashing, pretty good of late. 8-1 on DK now, 7-9 on Fanduel. He does get power forward / center, so some versatility as far as his roster ability. your thoughts as far as Dallas?
Yeah, Luka is who I want to play here. Good matchup against a really fast-paced Minnesota team. So it is a pace-up spot for Dallas. I don't get to him a ton still just because of the price tag, and I think the 8K, 9K range is really strong. We do have quite a bit of 3K value since we've jumped on the show here, so maybe it's a little easier to fit him in now, and I end up with more than I initially planned to. But I'm still just talking like a 15% or something like that. But it is a good spot for Luka. I like him. Christian Wood price is getting tough for me. Luka was out one of those smashed, and was the other one when Luka got ejected, or did Luka play the other one?
He did get ejected in the third quarter of a game. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the one where Wood got loose in a couple of games, but yeah, that's worth noting.
Yeah, he was definitely out for I believe he was out for the Portland game. I can't remember if Luka got ejected from the Cleveland game or the Minnesota game is the only thing.
I think it was a third quarter rejection, if I remember correctly, but yeah.
Yeah, so he sat the Cleveland game, and it looks like he played 28 minutes against Minnesota. So I think that's the one he got ejected in. So it was Portland when Luka and Wood played together, and both had pretty good games. Wood smashed, and Luka was out there the whole time. So I don't know. I just don't love the price tag. If he's starting again, you can do it, but probably not something I'll be doing very much of. The Hardaway price, I don't know how much we need it anymore with some of the 3K stuff that's opened up. He's fine. He was smashing there for a while when he was just chucking threes. He's slowed down a little bit on that front, but I'm still fine with that price tag on Hardaway.
Hit the like or take a hike. Should I steal that
I
there
like
from
that
Hammer in chat?
Yeah.
That feels a little aggressive. Like, hit the like or take a hike. Yeah, get out of here, you lurkers. Breaks wants to know Darius Garland or LaMelo Ball. Do you have a preference amongst those two?
I prefer LaMelo there.
Mr. Richard, a couple people were asking about this. Balanced build on DK single entry. Do you think it's a balanced build slate? I think it's, as a lot of times, 11 gamers, it's starting to open up a little bit more, as maybe I can get 2 studs. Again, I haven't built anything. I've been on the show, but just in my brain, I feel like I think I can make that work. What's your general thought on that?
So it depends on your definition of balanced. If we're going nothing over 10K, then I don't think it's balanced any longer. But if we're saying balanced is avoiding anything 11K and above, then yes, I could get on board with that. Like, I don't think you need to spend up to Embiid and Giannis and Luka on this slate. There's a ton of great stuff in the 8 and 9K range. And I like a lot of stuff in the 10K range as well, with Durant in particular, SGA in particular, and Siakam in particular. So I think there's some really solid 10K plays that I want to get to. So it depends on what your definition of balanced is.
Somebody was asking what the worst position is on DK today. I think it's probably shooting guard. I mean, LeBron is small forward or power forward. If we love LeBron, obviously we talked about that. Levine, you can play at small forward as well. If you had to pick one, I think it's probably shooting guard, but you could throw Poole there. We like him. We talked about Levine versatility also. I don't know if there's one that's like terrible. I would say that. I don't know if there's one deplorable like position that like, oh man, I can't believe I got a roster a small forward.
Right. I think the punt options make it so that like if you're punting a position, you're not expecting a ton, right? So like the punts, I think, make it to where I wouldn't say anything. If we're talking about just the top end of a position, then I agree it's shooting guard, because LeBron with the small forward eligibility is one of the best plays on the slate. DeRozan is fine. Where shooting guard, it's more on Poole has the blowout risk. Levine has been inconsistent. So I agree. The top end of shooting guard is the weakest spot.
I got scared there for a second. Reds Gal saying Zion is out. I'm like, I don't remember New Orleans being on the slate, but he's out for tomorrow night. So 2-gamer, no Zion. I think no Nance as well. You think Valanciunas is going to be owned tomorrow night?
He might.
I'm on the expert survey, and I feel like there's a really good chance I'm writing up Jonas Valanciunas. We'll see. He's not going to be sneaking up on anybody because I feel like he probably closes. Whatever. Let's talk about tonight. There's still 3 more games. Crunch Time Crew on layaway as well. Orlando, Houston, 223 is the total. Houston is a 1-point dog here. Houston pretty healthy. No Garrison Matthews. Otherwise, they're good to go. Tate's been out for a while. Orlando, Franz Wagner is a game time. That matters for sure. I think he's very playable if he does go. Suggs, Harris, Okeke, Carter, all still out. I think Carter's coming back soon, but not tonight. Good matchup for the Magic. I like Fultz a little bit here against Houston. They give up, a nice amount of stocks as well. Not that Fultz is necessarily. He's actually been a pretty good stocks guy for a guard. Ben Caro is he an upper mid-tier spend? I like him. I just like playing as players against Houston. You're getting a cheap Sengun. His minutes are kind of annoying, but if he gets like 28, 29 or so, he certainly has the ability to put up, 40 at 5'7". It's kind of built in, I think, as far as the price. But Magic Rockets, what is your assessment?
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in this game. There's a couple of different ways you can go. Orlando side, I like Paolo a good amount. I like this is a fantastic matchup. He should smash here. I like your Fultz call too. Price is very fair. I don't know that how much of the 5K value, which I would classify him as, we need, since there's a bunch of cheap stuff as well today. So he might get overlooked a little bit. Should keep his ownership down, but I don't mind that. I think there's some ceiling here because of the matchup. Franz, if he plays, I wouldn't talk you out of that either. If Franz ends up missing, then I have even more interest here, I think.
Who's there? Is there a direct benefactor if Franz is out? Is it his brother?
I think he starts anyway. I think Bol is the guy you'd tick up the minutes on.
Power forward / center. Yeah, I meant to run a court IQ on that. Did you have a lean as far as Franz Wagner being out? I just have game time and who knows, 50-50 call?
Yeah, I don't have a lean one way or the other there.
Yeah, and he's a solid play at 6.1K if he goes. 8 o'clock game. Like we said, 11 game slate, 9 of the 11 games start at or before 8 o'clock. So like a large chunk of the slate is going to go. So we're going to have this news at some point. If we don't get it, Crunch Time will get it. And if they don't get it, you'll get it by 7:30, maybe. We'll see. Stay tuned. Yeah, and Fultz at 30 minutes these days. He's been kind of ramped up. And he had some goofiness before with foul trouble and injuries and blowouts. I think the minutes are now pretty stable. And the price has gone up a little bit, but I think there's a little bit of meat in that bone still. And again, I like the matchup against Houston. What about Houston? You have any favorite plays over there? Is anybody that's kind of standing out for you ownership-wise? This one surprised me. I like this dude, but he doesn't play enough. Good fantasy point man player. We have Tari Eason getting 20 minutes and getting ownership, which I thought was a little surprising because, it's just thin. Your thoughts as far as the Rockets?
It is thin, but the reason I like I don't like the ownership number at all. But what it does is you build a little bit because we've talked about so many 3K guards that he's one of the few 3K forwards.
Yeah.
So it does allow you to spend up at guard an extra time. For that reason, I think he's interesting. But like you said, he doesn't generally play more than 22 minutes. So it's thin. You definitely have more minutes upside from whoever starts in New York. Caruso, I think there's just several of those 3K guards who could play 30 minutes tonight, and Eason is just not going to do that. But I do like it for the fact that it helps you flip the build a little bit.
Fantasy player 1.05, Sengun at 1.18. Go ahead. I'm going to cut you off. Continue.
Sengun is exactly where I was going next. I do like him quite a bit in this spot, especially with Wagner at the 5 on the other side. Like, not somebody I'm afraid of. Good matchup here for Sengun. I like the price. Center only, so probably can't get to a ton of him, but a guy that will definitely be in my pool.
Marcus Smart officially ruled out. So
okay. Just
to walk that back for a second, little bump to White, little bump to Brogdon, and I think Brown was getting a nice little bump as well too. If I remember correctly, that's where we had as far as the if-then. Do you have a thought on that briefly before we move on?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a great matchup against Indiana. It was one that I was probably avoiding for the most part. I think you have to have some exposure now. It makes Brown and Tatum both a little bit more interesting. It's still, I have trouble seeing who the Indiana piece is. So maybe I play more Derek White, Malcolm Brogdon than I do Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. But they're definitely in play, and I will have some exposure now where I was probably staying away for the most part.
One game, 10 o'clock, one game, 10:30. 10 o'clock, Lakers, Kings. 239 is the total. Lakers, 8-point dogs here. LeBron is mega chalk because no Westbrook, no Davis. Reeves is also doubtful. For Sacramento, we still have Harry Barnes and Domantas Sabonis, both as being questionable. The tricky part, again, kind of hinted at it a couple times, you got to have a plan going in because you probably don't know about Sabonis and Barnes at 8:01 or I guess 7:59. So, you have this game and you have Charlotte and the Clippers. Do you have a plan as far as if you're rostering Sabonis? Have you thought that far ahead?
We get to that. We did get a Warriors lineup. We've got Poole, Moody, Kuminga, Draymond Green, and Looney. So Kuminga instead of Ty, very interesting.
I liked Kuminga before, and I guess I like him more, but so does everybody else. So now I'm supposed to like him less. Is that how DFS works?
I think, yeah, that is how it works.
Yeah. Okay. I almost wish he wasn't starting, but yeah, I think Kuminga is going to be.
I'm with you. I thought he could see some really nice usage off the bench there, but it is what it is. He's in the lineup.
Probably hitting cash lineups now. I haven't built anything, and I'm sure our projection is going to change a little bit. Give him a few more minutes. Speaking of that, we talked about Schroeder. I think our projections like Schroeder now. We talked about LeBron multiple times already. He is going to hit your optimals like almost for sure. He's going to run the show as far as the Lakers. Where's Schroeder at? Just checking the old court IQ. No, the lineup HQ. Ownership wise, LeBron 46%. Good Lord, that's a big number. Almost 30% on Schroeder at DK, 4.7K. I saw somebody asking about Pat Bev. He's just not a guy that's going to take over offensively. He'll be out there for 27 minutes, 22 fantasy points. He's 3.5, so I think he's playable. And
Brian, him or Miles McBride, it's a very similar play in my opinion. Alex Caruso, they're all like similar plays. Getting the one of those that scores 28 points instead of 24 points is probably pretty important tonight.
You have a favorite amongst that mishmash?
I think Beverly is the one I'll play the most just because of game environment.
What about Thomas Bryant at 5.3? You like that?
I don't love it. I do like it. Kind of similar to the Okongwu thing on FanDuel, where it's not like he's minimum price anymore. Can he pay off this price tag? Absolutely, he can. It's just not like an automatic lock like it was when he was 3,500 and stepping in for AD. Fantastic matchup again. Love the game environment, so I will have some exposure. Just center only, not sure how far over the field I'm going to be able to get.
I haven't thought far enough ahead. I just assume that Sabonis is playing, but he is legit questionable. And Barnes too. Like that's 70 minutes, right? Like Sabonis plays almost 40 and Barnes plays like 30. They do have a lot of guys. They have a lot of dudes. But I guess Fox will be the first one as far as usage. Herter will probably become a little bit of a better play. I saw somebody in the chat mention Keegan Murray, who's been mostly a disappointment this season. Do you see like in this? I don't know what's going to be center, Metu or Holmes or Len or like a 3-man operation. I don't know what to do with that, but what would be your best guess if Sabonis is out or if Barnes is out?
The Kings are never a fun rotation to try to figure out. Let's see. I guess, I think it has to be Holmes, right? Unless I don't think they're going to play Murray at the 5. They just haven't seemed comfortable playing Holmes at all.
He's terrible. That's why.
Yeah.
He's really bad now.
Maybe Metu grabs a start. I don't know what they do as far as a 5. And it's Thomas Bryant on the other side too. Like he's an actual 5, so it's not like I don't think they can go Murray at the 5 here.
He's not a big 5, and LeBron probably can play some 5 later in the game. Just trying to think if the game could go small. I don't know. It's tricky. And then we have another game, Charlotte and the Clippers. Paul George is questionable with his knee. Jax and the Clippers are the worst. We need the Clippers on the East Coast because never get their news in time. Zubac is questionable with his knee. Just so many questionables. And, like, is it possible this could be Moses Brown? I don't know. Maybe. But, like, theoretically, if Zubac is out and if George is out and Jackson's out or just two pieces or especially Zubac and we get Moses Brown starting against Charlotte, who just gives it up to every – I know he's not Jokic and I know he's not Sabonis, but, you know, he's a big dude that's playing against Charlotte, and I like his chances. I don't know what to say, though. And 620 in the East Coast here as far as Charlotte and the Clippers. Charlotte, we're assuming they're going to be without Rozier. He's doubtful. Otherwise, same old, same old. What can you give me as far as the Hornets and the Clippers?
So Zubac questionable is very interesting because I think it is Moses Brown in a great spot if Zubac is out. I think what you can do is build with Patrick Beverley in your utility spot on DraftKings. This is obviously you can't do it on FanDuel, but build with Beverley in your util spot and save 200 to be able to go up to Moses Brown if Zubac is ruled out. I think you probably have that news by 10 Eastern. And I think that would be a fantastic upgrade.
That was somebody's idea in chat. Derek was throwing that out there in chat. Was that your idea too? Or?
No, I did not read the chat, so that came up with that one. But yeah, great comment there.
Yeah, and it's the thing is like if we somehow get 28 minutes of Moses Brown at 3-7, it could just be an awesome play.
Yep.
You know, you just got to hold.
I don't think people are too like concerned about leaving spots either because there's already great value plays at center, and not just cheap guys, but Vucevic is underpriced. Okongwu is certainly in play. If Gobert ends up ruled out, then you're going to get a ton of Naz Reid getting jammed in. So Nurkic? I don't know how many spot. What's that? Oh yeah, if Nurkic gets ruled out, you could get some Eubanks. Like there's a lot of things to where people potentially aren't thinking about saving spots for a Zubac getting ruled out.
Well, that's the thing though, right? You might get put to the test because let's say Nurkic is ruled out. And let's say Gobert is ruled out. You're going to, plug in Naz Reid and you're going to plug in Eubanks theoretically. Now Eubanks, then you can play it forward on FanDuel, but on DK, you might have those two spots locked up. And that's an 8:00 game. And it's the Clippers. You probably don't have news in the Clippers at 7:59, And so it's a risk reward. It's your own personal tolerance. And maybe you look how your lineup's doing at the time. if you can kind of gauge that. Right. It's hard to babysit a bunch of lineups. I don't know how you do it. If you can do that, the ability. But
I don't ever do it. I don't ever do it individually, but I rebuild many times throughout the night. I think tonight that the reward would be worth, even if you don't have just building a little bit of extra. And on DK, like on FanDuel, I don't know if it's worth it. On DK, I'm fine rolling with Patrick Beverley if I have to. And I think the reward of the upgrade to Brown is significant enough. I want to be able to have that flexibility. So I would still jam in plenty of Eubanks, but maybe not quite as much as I would if it was the last decision of the night.
You're okay playing three Lakers together, like Bryant, LeBron, Beverly, Shooter, like three of those?
Oh yeah. Yep, definitely. Yeah, they're great values. So I definitely think you can go three.
Yeah, and they're pretty cheap too outside of LeBron, obviously. And there's not a lot of – I think we're seeing 10 bodies for the Lakers. So theoretically, this game does not get goofy like the last one got goofy. And it's less likely to happen against the Kings. It certainly can. But yeah, as always, a lot to monitor. The best we can do as far as those 10 o'clock games, but that's kind of where we're at. Taking one more peek at the old Twitter, seeing if anything's changing, a peek in chat. Simon wants to know thoughts on Derek White now. We do have the Crunch Time crew coming in here momentarily. We'll make way for them shortly. But you have an answer for Simon? Where are you at as far as Derek White?
Yeah, I'm interested for sure. I think he's every bit as good of a play as like an Alex Caruso, just another 3K guard to add to the mix.
How much is he? He's 3 something?
He's 3,900 on DraftKings. Yep.
Interesting.
He's 4,900 on FanDuel, so don't like him quite as much there, but a great play on DraftKings.
We're giving him 27 minutes, 22 fantasy points at 3.9. Okay, and I'm assuming we're going to give him the start. I'm guessing.
Yep.
Is that our projected lineup has him starting?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. If you're not rostering KD or LeBron, what spend do you like? SGA.
I love SGA. I love Siakam.
Yeah.
Those are my two. That 10K range is absolutely loaded tonight.
Running SGA and Lillard in the same lineup, like double big spend on those point guards. Like that's not going to be happening at all, basically. Let's see. Grant Williams could be a decent value now. I've not considered Grant Williams. Have you considered Grant Williams?
I have not. That news broke while we were on the show, so maybe when I rebuild my stuff, I get to a little bit more of him. He's grading out perfect. I wouldn't try to talk you out of it.
If you're going to power rank Williams's, Grant, Patrick, Jalen, is there another Williams? All the Williams in the slate.
I would have Grant ahead of Patrick, probably.
Yeah. Kenrich is at the bottom, I think.
Yes.
You can go
Dean.
Hey, Dean.
Oh, what's up,
Dean.
Bill? Hi. Were you guys here the whole time?
Yeah, we really are.
Been here for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's been a long time.
Did you learn anything?
Williams,
just
something.
different Williams, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roth, are you excited for the big blizzard?
I'm so stoked. Yeah, like it sucks for us personally and people who have to deal with it, but for sports, it's going to be so fun. I'm so pumped about it.
I was trying to tilt you because yesterday, this is retroactive to yesterday, I learned that you hate the word, the people misuse the word blizzard. And I was trying to tilt you and you answered it like very kindly.
Oh, there's actually a blizzard though. That's the thing. Oh. It's you can legitimately use it in this case, which is what's so exciting.
All right, well, fair enough. And you're in Texas. It's going to be 18 degrees or something like that there. 12 degrees. What are you looking at?
Yeah, 18 degrees, a wind chill of 0, which for Meansy, that's like sounds warm and balmy. But for us in Houston,
That's balmy.
What about TJ?
Right. TJ in Canada, for Christ's sake.
It's minus 20 Fahrenheit here right now.
What's that in American though?
That's minus 20 Fahrenheit.
Oh, yeah, Fahrenheit. Never mind. You did the work for me.
And TJ, to be clear, that's the actual temperature, not the wind chill.
With the wind chill right now, it's minus 20. The actual temperature is minus 11.
Okay.
I've got 65 degrees here in Phoenix, so I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Yesterday with the wind chill, it hit below minus 30 Fahrenheit.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
I did not leave my house.
Anyways, if you haven't checked my NFL weather, or if you haven't seen me on one of 72 different PR hits today, there's a lot happening this week, so make sure you check out my NFL weather.
Roth, my favorite thing was that you, like, on the previous weeks when there's been like kind of bad weather but not really bad weather, you're always talking about how clickbaity stuff is, and I see your title to your article, like worst weather ever in the history of NFL. I was like, boy, I don't think he's lying. Yeah,
right. I mean it though.
Andy says you're a hypocrite. That's what I heard him say.
No,
I mean it. This is 10 years I've been doing this. I've not seen a week this bad in 10 years.
What was the biggest hit you had? You're like the Weather Channel, brag. What's the biggest one you had out there going today?
Weather Channel. The what?
Is it like Matthew Barry got you on layaway? Who's it?
Yeah, I'll probably do a hit for Barry coming up in the newsletter. The Weather Channel, Fox Weather, VSIN. Hanging out with my guy Musburger. Me and Musburger are boys.
Yeah.
So, just Cantori, Musburger, just some of my homies.
Musburger's a big gambling guy. I'm sure you figured that out by now.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have. Yeah.
All right. Myself and Keith, we have lineups to make. We have lineups to tend to. We do appreciate you all watching the first hour and a half here of the show. You got Fanduel sponsor. What's up?
Oh, we lost you for a second there, but that's cool. You can get out of here. Good job, Dean.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yep. Good timing. Welcome to it, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crunch Time. This is sponsored by FanDuel, and this is the show that brings you two of the sharpest minds in the industry, plus me. We've got one, Mr. Andy Means in the house. Meansy, how are you, bud?
I'm fine. Waiting on some DOG news. We got one of our older ones under the knife right now. So waiting to hear how she's doing. I think my wife's literally on the phone with them right now to see how she's doing. So I'm thinking about my dog, but thinking about some NBA too. So what's up with you, man?
All right, I'm thinking about Winnie as well. So fingers crossed that Winnie's doing well. I'm good, as I mentioned. I'm just in the weather universe. I'm learning how to undo my backflow from my sprinkler system. So I feel like such a man, just like using tools and doing man things. It feels pretty awesome. We got TJ as well. He has to do man things up there in Canada just to survive. What's up, TJ?
I absolutely feel like a full adult man, as you can see by my backgrounds behind me here. Prayers up for Winnie. I'm always thinking about NBA and my dogs, so understand that, but hopefully everything goes well. And yeah, we got a ton of news here. We're still waiting on for NBA. Lots of stuff late in the night, so hopefully Meansy will hold us down with the cash games, and I'm going to find some interesting ways for us to get different here. And I think most of that answer is going to be, wait till the later games.
Okay. I hate when that's the answer, but all right, we will discuss. Means my biggest issue with you coming on every other day is that you don't get to like stomp around and flex when you nail it. You had a call, was it Joe Val on Monday that you were like, I mean, you and I were both salivating at Joe Val's price.
Yeah. He was like 5 something, and we were like, yeah, man, if he like gets closing minutes, he can 10x, and he had 70 instead. So that went well for anyone who played him. If you did play him, I don't think you were even following games the rest of the night. But yeah, I get way more wrong than I get right. So that's why I decided to take every other day off. So
that's
no
smart. That's a pro move. All right, let's talk about this slate, bud.
Yeah, TJ kind of alluded to it. Like there's a bunch of news toward the back end of the slate. The Clippers have 4 guys questionable, which makes it borderline impossible to even break down. One of them is Paul George, another one's Reggie Jackson, Zubats, and I think Norman Powell. So I mean, it's impossible to break down. If all 4 of them are out, we're going to like a bunch, but who knows? And then the Kings have a couple starters questionable. Sounds like Sabonis is more likely to go than Barnes, but both went through shoot around, so whatever that means. These games start 3 hours and 3.5 hours after the slate locks, so it's one of those weird ones. Then we have the Timberwolves, like Naz Reid predictably crushed the other night. That was Monday, and Gobert's questionable again. So I'm sure I'm leaving a few out. We've had some other things break recently. Oh yeah, Kyrie got downgraded to questionable. They probably looked and saw who the Warriors were playing against them tonight and said, Kyrie, you probably just should take the night off, bud. Rest your calf a little bit. So KD will be a good spend up if Kyrie's out. So yeah, a lot to go, a lot to drop still, predictably with 11 games. So yeah.
Okay, and I don't know if we were expecting this, but in the chat I'm seeing here Middleton out.
Yeah, he was doubtful, I think, so we were expecting that. Yeah,
that's fair. Okay,
Franz Wagner is in and starting. That's kind of the only recent news we just got.
Yeah,
very good. Okay, means let's dive on into the game plan here, starting with a little FanDuel cash.
Yeah, so honestly, not a lot of no-brainers tonight, in my opinion. I have 2 plays tagged on FanDuel with Kuminga, who is starting for the Warriors. They're without Steph, Clay, Wiggins, DiVincenzo, JaMychal Green. I'm probably missing another one. I mean, I don't count Iggy, but I think they have 10 bodies available tonight. He's only 4.2 on FanDuel, so just a really good source of salary relief over there. And then I have Zach LaVine tagged, who's 6'9", like the second cheapest price all season. The one thing I will note about this, and I'm very curious to hear what TJ has to say about it when we get to tournament stuff, especially with LaVine's ownership, but he has not shown a ceiling. Like he's looked like a different player this year, probably because of the knee injury. He's scored like over 40 fantasy points, like a handful of times. He had one huge game where he had like 60 something, but he's just been like, okay. Like, okay is fine for cash games when when your price is depressed. So I'll be curious to hear what he has to say. TJ has to say about LaVine when we get to that in a little bit. Let's talk about some other plays here. I'll just lump the guards together just because generally most of them are point guard, shooting guard. I really like LaMelo tonight. If you look at his last game, he got in foul trouble in the first half. I think he played like a minute in the second quarter. Like it was one of those things where he got his third and he just didn't play. But he still played it. Like he would have probably been – it's tough to tell. Like you never know in the second half of those situations if a coach is just like, well, you didn't play your normal first 7 minutes, so I'm going to push you even more. But if he would have played normal-ish minutes, it looked like he could have been close to upper 30s. And there's no Rozier again tonight, no DSJ, no Martin. So I really like him. The matchup's not great because Clippers generally play slow and are pretty good defensively. They could also be without, PG. Zubats would probably be affected a little bit too with his rim protection. So I really like LaMelo as a spend up. Poole, like the tough thing with Poole is he's gonna shoot all the time because of who they're without, but are the Warriors going to keep this close? Like we saw what happened last time when they don't. Poole misses his last rotation and plays like 29 minutes or whatever. So he's an option. SGA is an option at 10-4. Jaylen Brown, shooting guard eligibility. Shooting guard small forward. Now that Marcus Smart's out, he's only 8'8". I really like him as a spend up tonight as well. Let's see here. DeRozan, 8'4", shooting guard small forward eligibility as well. Probably prefer Jalen just a little bit. Moses Moody is 3'7". Miles McBride, assuming he starts for Grimes, he's 3'8". McBride's point guard. Moody is shooting guard. I think that's a fair amount of people. Malcolm Brogdon, I'll mention, probably more of a play on DK. But that's generally speaking the crop of guards I like. Let's go to small forward where we have Kuminga there, obviously. The other two guys or a couple of other guys I mentioned, Brown, DeRozan, Levine. Patrick Williams, I suppose, is okay. He's not someone I ever like to roster. And tonight I would really have to like the rest of my lineup to land on him, even though he projects decently. It's kind of just something where it brings everything else together. Anthony Lamb at 3'5" is a decent cheap play, I suppose. My phone's going up. Okay, Killian Hayes is in. That was another guy who was late, downgraded, questionable. Not much to say here because it's Kuminga, it's Brown, DeRozan, and Levine. You could probably find some other guards if you want to move a couple of those guys to small forward. So let's move on because I don't really like anything else there. Power forward, actually not a ton to like here either. And the reason I even mentioned Patrick Williams to begin with is because you might be landing on him here, just strictly due to the position. Like if you go to lineup HQ and you sort on RG value, there's exactly 2 positive RG values at power forward. They're both really expensive. One of them's questionable. So maybe LeBron is a priority tonight on FanDuel just because of this position. No Westbrook, no AD. I think. He's a no-brainer on DraftKings where he's 9'9", but positional scarcity, you can make the case that he's kind of a similar type of priority on FanDuel. Al Horford, I will mention, at 5'3", I like him as well. Smart matters maybe just because it's like a minute or two extra that Horford might get just as a core piece of their rotation. The trickle-down effect would maybe get him another minute or two. We saw like when Tatum was out the other night, like Horford played 33 minutes, not, apples to apples just because Tatum's, plays more of his position. But I think Horford is actually let's put it this way. If I can find $800, I want to play Al Horford instead of Patrick Williams. So that is the best way to put that. Center. Thomas Bryant. He's priced up a little more than he is on DK. He's 6'1", but no Russ helps him a little bit. Obviously, no AD helps him. Vooch, all things equal, like if salary isn't too much of an issue, I'd probably prefer to play Vooch tonight at 7'9". Horford has center eligibility, and then Okongwu. So didn't start. I thought he was going to start. I'm surprised they started Collins at the 5. I'm assuming they're going to do the same thing tonight. That hurts his minutes upside. He still played a decent amount. But if you happen to see if we're not on the show anymore and Atlanta announces their starting lineup and you see a Okongwu in there, you should really like that because we have him at 25 minutes. That's projected to come off the bench. So he's fine for cash. Horford's fine for cash. Vooch, and Thomas Bryant. That's about it for me. So I'll pass it back to you guys.
Okay, very good. TJ, let's talk tournaments. You already kind of spoiled the secret. You're not doing anything, you're waiting, but maybe talk me through some of the plays you do like here, whether it be early or late.
So first thing I'll do is just kind of explain why I'm so interested in waiting, because it kind of goes on the surface, yes, it's because we look at the Clippers, we look at the Kings, so many late Q tags, that Clippers game alone with 6 of them. But the biggest reason why I'm so interested in it is like we look at some of the chalk value right now. Okongwu expected to come off the bench. Miles McBride projected to score 20 fantasy points. Patrick Williams, a guy who we really never see much ceiling from, expected to score 23 fantasy points. Moses Moody, guys like this that they're not that exciting of value. Like, yeah, they're probably not going to full out burn your lineup, but their ceiling is kind of the 5-6x range, not the 10x range, like we like to win a tournament with our value pieces. And so the one chalk, and he is the chalkiest one of the whole group, but the one I'm the most comfortable with is Jordan Kuminga, just because I do see a ceiling with him on top of his like good floor as well. But we did just get news that Kyrie Irving is out. So Meansy, do you want to touch on that for cash games at all? And if there isn't anything, I'll just start going.
Go ahead. No, just keep going. We'll talk about it in between.
I kind of hoped we didn't get that news until after lock, just because I do really like Kevin Durant for tournaments today. He's not picking up a ton of ownership, and now this is probably going to be going up because of the Kyrie Irving being out. And the annoying thing is like Durant hasn't been all that better with Irving out this year. So I still do really like him for tournaments. And Ben Simmons, I actually think, becomes quite interesting for tournaments as well if he gets a little bit of a minutes bump, plays
Kyrie
in the 30s.
Out.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about right now.
Kyrie out. I'm just echoing what you said because I wanted to make you feel, really hammer it home. Yeah.
And like Ben Simmons, because Kyrie is out, I think is somewhat interesting today. 6,700 on FanDuel. We're projecting him for 25 minutes. And like at that rate, no, he's not that interesting, but we could get more. I'm assuming that projection goes up a little bit in terms of minutes. With Kyrie being out already. And maybe if we see it like 2 games ago against Toronto where he bumps it up to 32, 33, he could have a big game. But going back to what I was originally talking about, the value outside of Kuminga right at the top here, I'm not super interested in. I don't really think this opens up a ton of value. I'm interested in Brooklyn, maybe Seth Curry, but for me, it makes it just more so interested in Durant and Ben Simmons. And at this guard position, I'm looking to spend up. Some of my favorite tournament plays on the slate are spend ups here. I like the idea of getting to some Luka Doncic and just hoping some value opens up later on the slate because no one's playing him. He's got the highest ceiling on the slate because he's Luka Doncic, and he's kind of my favorite tournament spend up today beside Durant. I'll like LeBron is my priority spend up today just because he's in such a good spot. But for large field tournaments, Luka and Durant are going to be my 2 favorite guys. Other players I really like at the guard position, I'm comfortable with the Jordan Poole chalk. Means he touched on Zach LaVine, and like Chicago is such an annoying team for tournaments because if LaVine, DeRozan, and Vucevic are all in, it's tough to really want to get to any of them, especially if 40% own Zach LaVine today. So I'm definitely going to be underweight on that in tournaments. And it'll make Vooch my favorite one. But the thing with LaVine is if I'm playing Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan today, who are chalky, then I want to run it back with Trae Young. Trae Young is another expensive guy at the guard position, picking up less than 10% ownership today. I'm very interested in playing some Trae Young. I would make a rule in lineup HQ anywhere that I had Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan today. I think I'd be pairing them with DeJounte Murray or Trae Young just to have my way to get a little bit different than the field here. At the forward position, like I said, LeBron is going to be my priority spend up, and then Kevin Durant is going to be my favorite for tournaments. In the mid-range position, like it's just fine. Everything just looks fine. And so because of that, like I don't want to really play the chalky Patrick Williamses and stuff like that right now. I would rather just wait on Minnesota, Sacramento, and the Clippers, assuming we get something from that. 6 guys out for the Clippers. Maybe it opens up Marcus Morris, Moses Brown, heck, even Nick Batum as the guys that are sub 5K and or just over 5K and could open up good value today. If we look at the Sacramento side of things, no Sabonis, no Barnes. It would open up Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, even Terrence Davis. Guards would be forced to play more. against this Laker team that is going to be playing a fairly guard-heavy lineup outside of Bryant in there as well. And then, of course, Minnesota, this will be the earliest one. Naz Reid isn't exactly cheap, but Kyle Anderson is questionable on top of Rudy Gobert. And so that would open up Jaden McDaniels to become more interesting, who I'm already interested in as a value play. And I think it would open up more of the mid-range guys on this Minnesota team as well. Final thing here that I kind of want to touch on is it doesn't feel like a day where you're going 3 stars and loading it up with a bunch of 3K guys on FanDuel. They don't really exist today. It's a 1 or 2. To me, it's maybe I'll take a shot on Doncic and hope value opens up because it doesn't open now. But as it stands, I still want to prioritize LeBron. And then my way to get different is just to get off of the chalky value that I don't think has that high of ceiling, like Moody, McBride, Patrick Williams.
Okay, very good. I want to make another injury announcement, but I'm afraid you're going to say, yes, that's what we're talking about. But Grimes is out. I don't know if that's what we're talking about, but I figure I should point that out. Means
so that
you wanna...
does open up, like that does make, like that's kind of why we like Miles McBride. We're projecting him for 31 minutes today as opposed to the sub 20 he had been getting. And at this 3K price tag, like 3.8K price tag, sorry, like that's probably going to be the best point per dollar value I think we have right now. It's just this isn't a guy that we've, I think, seen score over 20 fantasy points this year. So why do I even want to play him?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, good stuff. Means let's talk some DK. Let's talk some cash. Apparently LeBron is just lock button.
Yeah, definitely lock button for me. And I do like Durant, man. You take Kyrie off on court IQ, 1.51 DraftKings points per minute. If this game can stay close-ish, you got to think KD's getting up to, up in the upper 30s, man. And if he's doing
I
that,
can do the math. That's nearly 60.
Yeah. Yes, that is. You want to play him. At 10-5 on DK, I would be looking at trying to get both. I think we have the value to get both him and LeBron tonight. So that's going to be where I'm. That's going to be where I'm looking to start builds with. Let's look at some cheap stuff since those guys are forwards. Let's look at some guards. Let's try to get some. We'll start cheap and then look work our way up. So we've Moses Moody. I've talked about it in my article a little earlier. He's one of my favorite cheap guys at 3.3. We've already talked about McBride at 3.2. Then we have Derek White at 3.9. Dennis Schroeder at 4.7. Oh, I missed Patrick Beverly. Sorry, he's 3.5. So these are all guys that we can plug in to kind of get those studs. Pick and choose where you want those.
Something they touched on last show that I think is pretty relevant to this is I think Patrick Beverly with that such late spot makes for a really great utility for cash games and tournaments even. But like all of a sudden, say if you get Moses Brown starting for the Clippers in that last game, he's cheaper than Patrick Beverly. So as long as he's in the util because of how late he is, you can like potentially make some very strong swaps later.
Yep, and you can put Schroeder there too if you want something a little more expensive. So that's a good point. That's enough for the cheap stuff. Working our way up a little bit. Some names I mentioned on FanDuel, like Levine, 7'2", he's shooting guard, small forward. Poole, he's 8'2". LaMelo, 8'9", point guard only. Jaylen Brown, 9'4". SGA, 10'1". Those are some of the guys I'd be looking at to spend up on if you are looking to do that. So we'll go to small forward. You have KD and LeBron. So we've already established our affinity for those guys. Mm-hmm. We have Patrick Williams at 4K and Moses Moody at 3.3. Two guys I've talked plenty about. Again, I would prefer Moody to Williams. You have Levine, who I've already talked about. So not much is standing out here that isn't something I've already talked about. So let's go to power forward. I'm sorry, I didn't mention DeRozan over there at small forward. He's power forward eligible also. I missed him. But again, I would, if I'm spinning up this high, I'm going to go to LeBron or KD. Kuminga, He's 5K on DraftKings. It's clearly not as good of a play as he is on FanDuel, but I think he's cash viable. Horford at 4.9, cash viable. These are all of these cheap forwards, with the exception of Moody, I think fall below the cheap guards I mentioned. So generally speaking, if you're looking for cheap stuff, start with the guards. And that's going to make sense anyways because we want to spend up on forward. So let's look at center. I really like Bryant at 5'3". Mentioned the Okongwu thing. If he's starting, his projection will go up a little bit. I like him even more. Kuminga has center eligibility. If you can get Vooch, I really like Vooch at 7-1. If you're prioritizing the KD LeBron route, that might be a little bit tough. But if you have the salary, he would be my option. And again, like I glossed over it at the start, but if you're a premium subscriber and have access to our what if projections, you'll see the Naz Reid projection if Rudy Gobert is out. So even though he's more expensive than he's been lately, like you're still going to want to play him if Rudy's out. So just wanted to point that out as well.
Okay, already heading off some questions with the Vooch comment. I saw his name come up a few times, so good stuff there. TJ, anything different over on DK that you want to highlight before we dive into the QQs? You're muted, so highlight it without a mute.
Sorry, dogs were barking. Less about the players and more about the style of my build. A little bit more stars and scrubsy here on DK. I personally do like the route where you're getting LeBron, you're getting KD as well here in tournaments. And my way to get different, once again, is just going to be picking different value plays. So I want to emphasize that what Meansy said again there with Naz Reid, like he will be the top center player on the slate here if Rudy Gobert happens to be ruled out again. But some of the other values I kind of want to mention on DraftKings specifically, Derek White is going to be one of my favorite values. He's 3.9K on DraftKings, where he's up over at almost 5K on FanDuel. No Marcus Smart, so he should get some extended minutes. I like him quite a bit. I talked about him for like why we want to maybe use Patrick Beverley or somebody like that as our flex, because Moses Brown at 3,700 today, if he opts into the starting lineup, all 6 of these guys are out. You end up seeing 26 minutes for him. He could end up being the best value on the slate today. So that's somebody I like quite a bit. And then another team I'm still very interested in is Sacramento. I want to highlight Terrence Davis and Malik Monk. I like playing Dennis Schroeder. I like playing LeBron James. I think Monk and Davis, especially if we get Harrison Barnes and or Domantas Sabonis out, are 2 of the most interesting value plays. We got some revenge for Malik Monk. Terrence Davis is a guy that we've seen explode majorly anytime he gets extended minutes. And so he's been pushing 20-ish minutes every now and then lately. So if that happens, we're probably going to get okay-ish value from him anyways. But then if he happens to push for high 20s, he's a guy that could break the slate on this one. So that's somebody I really like as well. Other than that, mostly the same-ish as on FanDuel. I think the guys like Patrick Williams, McBride, Moody, they're all fine plays and they're all good cash game plays. But for tournaments today, they're the ones I'm looking to pivot off of and get different by hopefully some of this stuff opening up a little bit later here. I feel similarly about on DraftKings, Poole, Vucevic, and Kawhi Leonard. They're all in that 7 to 8K-ish range. I've seen some questions about them as well. I like all of them. I don't have any issues with any of them. I just don't know if for me personally, they're going to fit my type of build today.
Okay. All right. Good stuff, guys. We've got about 6 minutes left for QQs. Mr. Papa Giorgio says, any interest in Austin Rivers at 35 hundo on a DK GPP?
He's not my favorite option, but like if you're NMEing today and you happen, especially if you get Kyle Anderson out, like he's been playing the minutes and he's been doing the 5-6x thing for you. And so I think he is okay, but he's not my favorite.
Okay, very good. Derek pointing out that Wood will start, and you know that I'm
your boy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've got Wood.
River. By the way, Rivers has shot 17 for 21 in this past 3 games, which is helping, boost that box score up a little bit. So forever ask that. Always like keep an eye on that stuff too. Like that's just beyond unsustainable. So if you just like make him shoot 50%, he's getting like, 20 DK points or something, not 30 or 35 or whatever. So.
And if Anderson and Gobert are in, there's really no point of playing him because he's just going to get pushed out of the lineups. Like they'll run guard heavy sets and he'll get probably 26, 28 minutes with no Anderson and Gobert, but with them in, he's going to be useless.
Okay, let's lightning round this because we've only got about 4 minutes left now, guys. Scrolling up just a wee bit. FanDuel single entry TJ, SGA or KD?
KD.
F Primo says, who are the cheap guards in DK Cash that you liked, Means?
Quick note, McBride is not starting and Emmanuel Quickly is in the starting lineup.
What's Quickly priced?
Interest in Quickly?
Quickly,
guys. Quickly's price is $4,500 on DraftKings. To be honest, I think that might make him my favorite value on this point. At this point, and I'm going to check to see.
Put him up there. Put Moody up there. Put the Dennis Schroeder, Patrick Beverly, Derek White. Those guys were the cheap guards I was talking about.
Very good.
$4,700 on FanDuel as well. I think he's kind of my favorite value on both sites now, just because he has such a high upside.
Okay, all right. Means you worried about his floor at all, or you think he's
who's that?
Solid now? Quickly.
No, I'm not worried about his floor. Tibbs said he's gonna, or one of the beat writers insinuated they're gonna play 8 guys tonight with Grimes out. So like, I would not be hesitant to play any of those guys.
Very good. Okay. Meansy, could you go over scenarios if Nurk is out along with Harrison Barnes for Sacramento? Who would benefit? Is Keegan Murray in play even if Sabonis plays?
Yeah, he'd be in play. I don't think it's gonna be too much if Barnes is out for him. Like the projection won't go up too much just because Keegan's already playing a bunch. Harrison Barnes gets there more on his minutes. So like it's not like Murray's gonna see a bunch of rates pop up. If Nurk's out, Eubanks would be an appealing option on FanDuel more than anything.
Yeah, and I like what TJ just pointed out in the chat with how late we got this Quickly news. It does make him a better play in tournaments because assuming it starts soon, a lot of people.
If I could make it happen and I was running 150, I think I'd hit the lock button on him just because I think he's going to get 30 minutes, 30 fantasy points, be among the best values, and he's going to be heavily not as owned as he should.
Okay, good stuff. Achilles, DK Cash means 3v3 for you. The Brunson Burner, Bryant and Levine, or McBride, KD, and Simmons, or perhaps Simmons.
The first one.
Okay, very good. DK Cash, Ball and P versus Poole and Horford.
Ball and P, that's all I get? P?
Who the hell is P?
There's a lot of people who have P as their first name. Like
I'm guessing P-Bev. I'm guessing P-Bev, but I don't know.
So Ball and P, and who's the other one? Maybe I can guess.
Poole Horford.
It might be. You might be right. I would do. I'd do the first one just because it's not my fault. I don't know who P is, so I'm doing the first one.
It makes it easy. All right. Arlo, DK Cash means, can you get Vooch and Levine with KD and LeBron? Oh, I'm sorry. You can get Vooch and Levine with KD and LeBron. Do you like Levine at small forward? By the way, it was P. Will. We don't like his.
I wish I didn't know that part.
Right.
If you can comfortably get KD, LeBron, Vooch, and Levine, then congratulations on winning all the money tonight.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Caught up on all those. Jumping on over here. Any interest in Pascal in a DK GPP? TJ already on it. He says, yes, you do.
Yeah, I like Pascal in a DK GPP. I wasn't sure if we'd make it back to the YouTube, so I started answering at the bottom there. I'm not very interested in a Yucca Okongwu. That's somebody asked that today. I'd rather put somebody like Thomas Bryant in there so I can update to somebody else if injury news opens up like Eubanks or Naz Reid. And then on Pascal Siakam, yeah, I think he's very interesting for tournaments today. What about Jalen Duren in a DK GPP? I don't like his price on FanDuel. I'm checking what it is right now on DraftKings. I do think he's somewhat interesting on DraftKings, but only if I were running 150 because there's other setters I'd rather get to.
You take another question from me, and I will give you the pimp slap. Just whack. And then
you said lightning round, and it's 59, right. So I tried to get it quick.
Did anyone mention I don't care. Did anyone mention Giannis? No, we didn't mention Giannis.
We know Roth didn't.
I like Giannis now. I've come around.
Yeah. 3 years later.
3 years late. Just fully late. Yeah. We didn't mention Giannis, but TJ, I assume anytime you can get a Giannis in, that's not a bad thing.
against a team like Cleveland, I would rather, if I'm spending all the way up for somebody like that, I'd rather do it with Luka.
Okay. All right. Very good. Coming up on the lock, jumping over here. Means FanDuel Cash, Schroeder, Wall, or Brogdon.
Not Wall. I mean, that's not worth waiting for. What's Quickly's price? Schroeder. I'm going to go with Schroeder on that one.
J Sam says, will Nurk being out affect Dame's projection in FanDuel?
Not much. I don't think it's going to affect it much, no.
Okay, we've hit the lock, but we do have a couple of interesting questions. Matt says, means you do the late games usually release their injury updates before the second round of games lock? I guess it depends when the late games are.
I'm just going to tell you general rules, and then people can judge that based on when games start. So if you're not on the second night of the back-to-back, you have to submit your injury. Like, let's say, like you saw a bunch of news coming, like Zion's out. Like, they have to submit their injury reports for tomorrow's game, like in the evening tonight. Mm-hmm. That's if you're not on the second night of the back-to-back. If you're on the second night of the back-to-back, you have to submit your injury report by 1 o'clock local time. So if you're playing in Houston, that's going to be 2 Eastern, whatever. And then once you do that, it's fair game of when stuff can be like. Then when you actually decide when the player is playing or not, and that's if the people even relay it. So once you get an initial injury report, then it's who the heck knows. So let's use the Clippers for an example. We knew all of these guys are questionable last night. They haven't said a freaking word since.
We're getting Portland right now, and everybody's in.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, very good. That's interesting. Means I didn't know any of that. So that's good info to have. This is a random question. I don't understand it. James, if you're still watching on YouTube, stick around. This is a CSV question. These things, I can barely handle CVS. I don't know what a CSV is. It's above my technical abilities. Which of you uses a CSV?
That's all TJ.
I can answer that. Yes. His answer is yes. It will still let you do the CSV edit on FanDuel after lock if you full fade the first game. Make sure your lineup HQ has no players in any of the first games. Make sure your FanDuel dummy lineups have nobody in any of the first games. And you will still be able to use the FanDuel late swap CSV edit tool and just upload your lineups in there afterwards. So if you full fade the first games, you make sure your dummy lineups are empty. You make sure you have them X'd out on lineup HQ. You will be able to still treat the slate like it's a half hour later lock.
You guys have answered some really complex stuff over the last 2 questions that I did not understand, but good for you. Hey, here's a question from Casey Douglas. Means even though he's not starting, will McBride still be a decent value, putting Thomas Bryant in the util, leaving $600 in case Gobbert gets ruled out and I can get up to Nas?
He'll be at best he'll be a middling value. So I would not, as all the enthusiasm that was there from him since we knew Grimes was doubtful, that was all assuming he was going to start. And since he's not starting, I would not be thrilled about rostering him tonight.
Okay, very good. Last question, then we'll get out of here. It is from Ball. It says, means Simmons starting got to be better than Levine and Cash? Question mark.
I don't think so. No.
Okay, does not got to be. Does not got to be at all. Achilles DK Cash means last question. Quickly SGA. That's the answer. We can end it there. Ooh, well. Yeah. Or Brunson Vooch.
Oh man, Brunson's been good, man. So those are both really good, but I want to play Quickly, so I'm just going to ride the Quickly train.
How good is my boy? How good is my boy at basketball?
It's good. What's Dallas doing? That's a better question.
He's borderline all-star. I watched this guy play, getting 5 minutes backing up Luka before he blew up. And I was like, this dude is all-star caliber good. And I was crazy because he was getting 5 minutes. I was crazy, but I'm not crazy because that dude's just freaking good at basketball. He's so fun to watch. I love him. I love him like a brother.
No arguments here.
Sorry. That was a bit much, but it's true. Okay.
And he's the same height as us, so.
Right. That's what's so fun. He has to.
Us. Not you.
Us.
TJ and I. Yeah. Not Mr. 6'5" over there. It's so fun. He has to be so crafty, and he is, and it's so good, and it's such beautiful basketball. But we got to get on out of here. Means fingers crossed pairs up for the pupper. So we are going to bounce for Means, for TJ, for our wonderful production team, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.